So about a week or two ago, I was on blabbermouth.net, which I'm on way too often, even now, um, fighting with people about politics and all sorts of stuff. Because, as people probably already know, a lot of the metal community is pretty conservative. I don't think originally it was supposed to, I don't, I was going to do this epic video about whether or not heavy metal music in general is left or right or whatever. I still might do that sometime. But the fact of the matter is, lately I've been kind of arguing for more of a moderate, almost, I'm not going to use the word right wing, but I guess more moderately right position with regards to some stuff, at least how things are playing out. So I got kind of attacked for kind of making fun of making light of this thing that's going to happen in July, supposedly, and I don't know if it's still going to happen. Let me look it up. I just want to double check. I guess it is, so it's kind of silly, this whole thing, but it was originally going to be called Herd Immunity Fest, and I laughed my ass off because I thought it was so ridiculous. Because first of all, we don't know if the C virus will ever have herd immunity other than vaccines or whatnot, because the type of virus that it is kind of a little different than your average influenza or something like that. And that's probably those same factors are what makes it harder to make a vaccine for too. But if anything, herd immunity won't happen, but like the virus will weaken. I think that's more likely, that the virus will weaken its severity and over time and mutate in that way. That's more likely, because it happens with other viruses that are similar, like the original one from 2002, 2003, I believe. I'd have to read about it more, but there was some things about that, about how it kind of basically disappeared and stuff. It didn't disappear, but So anyways, this festival gets announced, and people are going crazy about it on Blabbermouth, like, oh my god, it's so stupid, oh, horrible, It's essentially, and I'm not going to try to castigate certain subgenres of metal that I don't like as mallcore, but, if you want to come from that metal elitist perspective, it's pretty much a NU metal, new metal, mallcore kind of festival. It's bands I don't like, and maybe a couple, like, cover bands are playing. So this is the thing about this festival, is that it's all outside, and even if you go on the website buying tickets, or some of the websites that sell tickets, they said you have a social distance and stuff. So it's like, all right, so we had a month or two of protests, or a month and a half of, maybe not a month and a half, a month of protests. Excuse me. I was looking at the dates wrong, thinking of the dates wrong. So we had a month of protests where people were not social distancing, and people were wearing masks for the most part, but some people weren't, and some people were taking them off during certain points. And I know some people that I talked to that went to some of the protests. They're like, oh yeah, I actually had a joint with someone, with this group of guys. I'm like, okay. I mean, people, like I said in my previous social distancing is dead video, people are not following this thing to the letter at all, what people are supposed to do. So the criticisms of the Herd Immunity Fest, now called July Fest or something, are unwarranted. I mean, I think maybe partially warranted, but I think it's good to have an experiment like that, because we got to see, the music business is in shambles right now. I mean, I was trying to form a live version of my main project, like February, I was meeting the singer and jammed with a drummer and stuff. And it's like, this thing hit, it's like, well, that goes out the window, So we gotta experiment with things and see what plays out. So why not have Herd Immunity Fest, or whatever, the jerk off fucking, trailer park kind of rural Wisconsin rock fan kind of stuff. I'm stereotyping, being a total asshole, but whatever. That kind of stuff. I mean, Beast in Black is probably, probably white trash Euro metal. See, so I can't. It's pop, basically. I mean, I like it. For some reason, this album, that second album, really kind of made me think a lot of. I mean, just kind of blew my mind because it was so catchy, but like so ridiculously guilty pleasure that I'm just really into the band. But anyways, that's on a different note. That's a more musical note. So it's herd immunity anyway. So I don't want to seem like a hypocrite when I'm criticizing some of these bands, but or the fans. Well, let them have their festival. You know, I mean, we got to find out if what is viable for the music industry. So let's see if this results in more cases. If there's too many people, you know, getting drunk and not social distancing, which is probably going to happen, of course, considering that style of music. I mean, it's just, you know, maybe they won't allow alcohol or something. I mean, they could. There's all sorts of things they could do, but we got to find a way out of this as far as the guidelines and conditions that we're in. So this July, what the fuck is it called? I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, it's really silly. It's in Wausau area. Okay, July Mini Fest. Okay, so it's outside, and there's all these bands like Dope and all these fucking god, the stuff that I was rebelling against in the early 2000s that I just was like, you know, I just hated it. This radio kind of whatever, you know, post grunge, new metal, whatever, NU metal, not new metal. This is a new metal band, but NU metal, you know, with the umlaut or whatever. So this herd immunity fest or July mini fest or whatever, we just have to see. I mean, I think it should happen. It should take place as an experiment. For one thing, the age range is a little bit older, probably older skewed than the protests were, but still not anything to be really alarmed about. I mean, I'm not going to go into the statistics a million times on here because I don't want to like be too redundant. Of course, I'm doing my epic video about the virus coming up, even though I already did a 45-minute podcast about it on this channel. So the whole thing, like, I think the whole thing should move forward. They obviously can take precautions to meet whatever standards that they're trying to meet and guidelines, and they should do it. And if the protests could go off without supposedly a lot of these blogs and articles and about the protests, is there was no apparent spike in cases because of it. Of course, I don't know if I believe that totally or not, you know, but they say if it's outside, you know, that's why there's some of these patio shows coming to this town, which is the most liberal city in the Midwest. Patio shows and outdoor things where there's social distancing. You know, nobody's fucking doing that in their private life. But anyways, I already did a video about that. So, I mean, if they're going to be doing this stuff, I think they should experiment with it. It's not an experiment with death. I mean, if it was like elderly, like baby boomer, Rolling Stones, old Cella, Part 2 or whatever, yeah, I could see why there could be concern because, you know, more at risk. But people that are ostensibly probably not above the age of 50 at this festival, probably a lot of 40-somethings, 30-somethings, because to be fair, that's when that music had its peak, you know, like Dope and what the fuck, Power Man 5000. I don't think Power Man 5000. Static X, which is not really Static X because Wayne Static is dead, but it's this Static X band kind of tribute / new band or whatever called Static X. It's kind of like Mayhem when Euronymous died. It's like, is it really Mayhem? And if they have the Thorns guy in there, because he wrote some of the riffs on their infamous album, there may be a go at Mayhem, but yeah, you know, Mayhem's okay. Their newer stuff, you know, post Euronymous. Newer stuff. It's not newer, but you know what I mean, like 25 years old, whatever. So, yeah, I think they should move forward with the herd immunity July mini fest. Be careful, you know, take precautions. But these protests, people are screaming and probably drunk and on drugs and all sorts of stuff with some of these protests. I mean, if you want, you know, think about this. So when a person goes to a protest, they're not just going to protest, you know? How are they going to just protest? That doesn't make sense. Like, I'm just going to protest all day and do nothing else. Maybe eat a meal at, you know, a socially distanced cafe outside with a mask on and then spray everything with disinfectant 5 times before I eat it and afterwards. No, that's not what's going on. People are, teenagers and young adults are getting drunk and wasted. Like my guy I know that got stoned at the fucking protest, you know? It's like, people, that's probably pretty common. So if there was a spike in cases of the protest, I could see why July Mini Fest could be criticized, you know. But supposedly there's not, and that's probably I'm going to go into this and more in my video, but it's because of some claims that were shot down early on by a lot of naysayers about the virus that are proven true, and even our president was proven partially right, unfortunately. But for people that don't like him, which I count myself, that as one of those people, but it's pretty ridiculous. So I think to conclude this herd immunity fest, it's so fucking funny. I think it's pretty ridiculous to call it herd immunity fest. I think it's funny, but it's ridiculous. They should have never done that. That just got attention to it. I think they just said, we're going to call it herd immunity fest so we get all this attention to this festival and all this controversies. Read Ryan Holiday's, what was that book? Ryan Holiday, he did a book, I'm Lying to You or something like that. It was about how bloggers, get clickbait and what they really do, what goes behind the scenes of these media sources and stuff. It's pretty fucked up, honestly, and pretty horrific, actually, what's going on. That's why when people question why I question media, is because I read all these books about what goes on behind the scenes. Trust Me, I'm Lying. That's what it's called, the Ryan Holiday book. There was another book that I kind of put together with that, because it's kind of like, if you read these two books, you kind of understand how the internet works with sensationalism and hysteria. The other one is I think it's Have You Been Publicly Shamed? John Ronson. Put these two books together, you have an encyclopedia of why a lot of the internet's bullshit, from the right and the left, and all sorts, center conspiracies. Yeah. So before I'm not going to go into that subculture. I already did a video about that with regards to the virus. I just want to make a other note. Is that one more note? I just thought of it right now. Conspiracy theorists live to sensationalize things and make people scared so they can make money. It's a self-perpetuating cycle, just like the mainstream media. So anytime you read a conspiracy theory, just look, they're trying to make money. That's their income, and it's not like it's like Pat Robertson. Does he really believe in Jesus? He probably does to some extent, but he also believes in money. Two things can coexist at the same time and influence it in a nefarious way. Well, that's all I got to say. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to be releasing a fuck ton of videos in the next month, so